Okay, welcome to this tutorial on factorizing. Okay, so there's two main ways of factorizing. The first one is by long division and the second way is by inspection, which I'll go through in the next video, but for now we're going to do some examples on factorizing by long division. I've got four nice examples that we're going to go through. Again, I just advise you guys to pause the video and do the question before watching this video. Okay. So for long division, the first thing we need is a factor. Okay, so to get a factor, we need to see where this equation is equal to 0. Okay, so essentially we need to substitute a value in to see if it gives us 0. So let's say x is equal to 1. If we substitute x equal 1, we get 1 squared minus 2 times 1 plus 14, which is equal to 1 minus 9, which is minus 8, plus 14, which is equal to 6, which is not equal to 0. So this cannot be one of our factors. So let's try a different number. So let's try x is equal to 2. So we have 2 squared minus 9 times 2 plus 14, which is equal to 4 minus 18 plus 14, which is equal to 0. So x equals 2 gives us a factor, or x equals 2 is a factor, so we need x minus 2. So we just make this one of our factors. So we know that x minus 2 is one of our factors. And we want to find the other factor by using long division. Okay, so we set up long division like we normally do. Let me say x minus 2, and we're dividing x squared minus 9x plus 14 by x minus 2. So in the first block, let's say it here, we want to get a value so that whatever multiplied here times this whole expression equals x squared, gives us the x squared. So this minus the first value should give us an x squared. So we can see that is x. So x times x is x squared. X times minus 2x is minus 2x. Okay, then what we do is we subtract this top term, so this part minus this bottom term. So then what we get is x squared minus x squared is equal to 0, and then a minus 9x minus minus 2x is equal to a minus 7x, and then plus 14, so we have an invisible plus 0, minus 14 is just plus 14. Okay, then we move on to the next invisible box that we have. Okay, so now we need something times x must give us a minus 7x. So we can see that this is going to be a minus 7. So so that gives us minus 7x. Minus 7 times minus 2 is plus 14. And then again, we take the top term, minus it from the entire bottom term. And that gives us 0 plus 0. So when we have no remainders at the end here, we know that the other factor is this top part in brackets, which is x minus 7. So those are two factors. If we wanted to check that this is correct, you can substitute x equals 7 into the equation, and it should give you 0. Okay, I'll leave that for you guys to check. Okay, so the next question, again, the first thing we want to do is find a value of y that works. So let's try y equals minus 1. Okay, so 2 times minus 1 squared minus minus 1 minus 3, which is equal to, so that's going to be a positive 2 plus 1 minus 3, which is equal to 0. So we know that x minus x or y equals minus 1 works. So then our factor is y plus 1. Okay, so y plus 1 is the factor, or the first factor. Let's move that as well and put some brackets around it. So now we want to find the second factor. So we're going to do it by long division, and we're dividing that entire term by y plus 1. Okay, so now we need to multiply this invisible box. This times the first value needs to give us 2y squared, so we obviously need a 2y. So So that gives us 2y squared minus, or rather plus, 2y. Okay, now again we take the top term minus bottom term, which gives us 2y squared minus 2y squared is 0, minus y minus 2y is equal to minus 3y, and we pull this straight down, minus 3. Okay, again we now have a second imaginary box because we still have a y included, so now we need to get a minus 3. So obviously you multiply by a minus 3. So that gives us minus 3y minus 3. Subtract the top term from the bottom term and we get 0 plus 0. So again we know that 2y minus 3 is the other factor. So that is our answer. Okay, so now we get to cubes. Okay, cubes are also very similar in approach. So again, we're going to try and find a value for x that gives us 0. So let's say x equals y. So y cubed minus y cubed equals 0. So we know that x minus y is therefore a factor. Okay, now we're going to find the next factor through long division. So we're going to have x cubed and going to leave some space minus y cubed. You'll see why I left some space. You won't have to later, but just for the purpose of this tutorial, I've left some space there. Okay, so the first term needs to be x squared. So x squared times x gives us x cubed minus x squared y. Okay, and then we need to multiply or minus the top term from the bottom term, so we're going to get 0. This we're going to assume that we have a plus 0 x squared y. Okay, so then 0 x squared y minus x squared y gives us a positive x squared y, and we're going to bring that minus y cubed down, so we're going to get minus y cubed. Okay, now we need to add, or we need to multiply the invisible term by a positive x y. So then we get x squared y minus x y squared, and then we're going to subtract the first term from the second term. Just going to give myself some space, not like that, but rather give myself some space. Okay, so then what we get is 0. Again, we're going to do the invisible plus 0xy cubed. So then we get a positive xy squared. Okay, and then we're going to bring that minus y cubed down. So we're going to get minus y cubed. Okay, so we still have x's there, so we're going to need another term, and we're going to need a plus y squared. Okay, when we multiply that through, we're going to get xy squared minus y cubed minus these two terms, and we get 0, 0. So we know our second factor is x squared plus xy plus y squared, and that doesn't factorize anymore. So that is our answer. Okay, the last example I've got, let's try substituting in x equals 1. We have 4 times 1 minus 4, we can have cubed, minus 4 times 1 squared minus 1 plus 1 gives us 4 minus 1 plus 1, which is equal to 0. So we know that x minus 1 works. So one of our factors is x minus 1. Okay, delete that, and now we want to get a second factor by long division. So we have 4x cubed minus 4x squared minus x plus 1. We have x minus 1. So the first term we're going to have to multiply by 4x squared, which gives us 4x cubed, and we have minus 4x squared. Okay, subtract the two terms and we get 0 minus 4x squared minus minus gives us a positive 4x squared is plus 0, and we can bring down this minus x. Okay, so to get a minus x, we need a minus 1 here, so we get a, and we can bring down this plus 1 as well, so we get this multiplied into there, gives us minus x plus 1, and when we subtract these two from each other, we get 0 plus 0. So we know that 4x squared minus 1 is also a factor. Okay, so unfortunately this question isn't done yet, so we know that 4x squared minus 1 can be simplified more using dots. And I've explained this in a previous video, so this simplifies to x minus 1, 2x plus 1 times 2x minus 1. And that is the final answer. Okay, so that's all the examples I have for you guys. Hopefully this was useful, and in the next video we'll go through factorizing by inspection, which is a much simpler way to get to the same answer. Thanks for watching, guys. Schmooze.